Should you sign an NDA before you start your new nanny position? This is something that's coming up more and more, and not just high net worth families are asking you to sign NDAs. Should you sign an NDA before starting your next position? Let's break it down. If we haven't met before, I'm Michelle Kelsey, founder of the Nanny Solution by Nannies on Call. Each week I bring you new videos to educate and inspire you to get better jobs, make more money. First of all, what is an NDA? An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. This is something that a family will have you sign before starting to work for them to protect the information you may see in their household. It means that you can't disclose it to anyone else. What you see in their household stays in their household. This could include anything from family routines, schedules, personal information, and potentially any business information that you hear while you're in their home. But don't get scared, we're going to break it down even more. So why might a family ask you to sign an NDA? You might say, I would never say anything about the family. But this is that next level protection that they need to protect their family's interests. So here's a few reasons they might ask you to sign. Number one is privacy. Families will ask you to sign to ensure that their family business and personal information stays private. This happens a lot in high net worth families or celebrities, professional athletes, because they don't want some of the information getting out there that is private to their family. So you wouldn't be able to disclose that to anyone. Safety. Again, if you're dealing with high net worth families, athletes, film stars, you posting on Instagram where you work, something about the family's location, where you're vacationing, could jeopardize the family's safety and the children's safety. So they want to ensure this doesn't happen. Business confidentiality. Many nannies overhear business conversations. They want to protect that confidentiality so it doesn't end up in the wrong hands. We had a nanny once travel with a family onto their yacht, and she had to sign an NDA that she wouldn't take any photos on the boat, that she wouldn't post where she was. She couldn't post anything about the trip because this was the family's trip and she was traveling with them, and it was their safety that they were concerned about. Now the big question, should you be concerned about signing an NDA before you start a new position? Here are some things to consider. You want to make sure you understand the terms. Sometimes they can be very legally, and you want to make sure you fully understand what you're signing before you sign. An NDA shouldn't be overly restrictive or difficult to read. If it is, it might be a red flag. Scope and duration. You want to see how long the NDA is valid for. Is it your term of your employment? Does it go outside of that past when you'll finish working for them? You want to have an idea of how long this NDA is valid for. And legal advice. You always want to seek legal advice before signing any legal document. So if you have the opportunity to have a lawyer review the document before signing it, it's always a good idea. This is where my disclaimer comes in. Obviously, I'm an agency owner. I am not a lawyer. So everything I'm saying, please check with a lawyer first to make sure you're protected. We've had several nannies apply with our agency who've signed NDAs in the past that have restricted them from even talking about their previous roles in an interview in the future. So this meant they couldn't tell us how old the children were, what they did in that role, where that role was located. And this is very restrictive. So make sure the NDA isn't too restrictive. Even though there are things you want to look for, there are benefits to signing the NDA as well. Number one, it builds trust. Signing the NDA shows the family that you can be trusted and that you have no concerns over signing it because you would never disclose anything about their family to anyone anyway. Professionalism. Not being surprised by an NDA shows that you're used to this kind of document, you've seen it in other nanny roles, and you're very comfortable signing it. And number three, clear boundaries. Not only does it help the family, but it helps you establish clear boundaries about what you are and are not allowed to do. Many of the families we've worked with who have nannies sign NDAs, the nannies are not even allowed to tell anyone who they're working for. You can't disclose the name of the family you're working for or where they live. And even though it can be good, you want to look for a few red flags. Overly broad terms. If the NDA has overly broad terms or is too vague, that's actually not a good thing. You want it to specify what the family is trying to protect. Unreasonable duration. If it extends indefinitely or for an unreasonable amount of time, you might want to look at this as well. And finally, are there any penalties that are too harsh? If the penalties seem unreasonable for the breach, you also may want to reconsider this. We knew a nanny who signed an NDA that had a hefty penalty for every single breach, no matter how small. You want to make sure that the penalties aren't overly harsh. Well, signing an NDA is very common in the nanny world. You want to make sure you know what you're agreeing to. Always read the document carefully, know what you're agreeing to, and consult a lawyer. Protecting your interests is just as important as protecting the family's. Have you ever had to sign an NDA? Have you seen any crazy things in these NDAs? Comment down below so we can learn from each other. Have a great week.